Welcome to Spooky History. In this episode, we're heading to a city that frequently tops most haunted cities in Europe lists as we visit York. Treasurer's House, York, has a reputation as one of the most haunted buildings in one of the most haunted cities in the world, Edinburgh notwithstanding. Retired policeman and one-time engineer Harry Martindale might have been seen as a pragmatic man, a reliable witness. In 1953, when he was an 18-year-old plumber's apprentice, he was working on a boiler in the depths of a museum at Treasurer's House behind York Minster. Harry thought he was working alone, so was somewhat startled when he heard the sounds of a trumpet. He was even more confused when the shape of a helmet started to emerge from the wall of the cellar. Within seconds, the helmet emerged from the wall, worn by a man dressed as a Roman soldier. He was followed by a cart horse, then by another 20 men, walking two abreast, all carrying lances, round shields and swords, all of them looking bedraggled and tired. Their green tunics were worn and dirty. They were only visible from the knees up. He was on a ladder at the time, and was so shocked he almost fell off. He scrambled down the ladder and up the stairs, where he ran into the curator of the Treasurer House. Before Harry could speak, the man said, "By the look of you, you must have seen the Romans." That's a terrible Yorkshire accent, I appreciate. Harry never told anyone else at the time, and only mentioned it when he was interviewed for a documentary in 1970. He never made money from his story and said, "I only believe in what I saw." Most people at the time assumed Harry was making it up, especially scholars who believed all Roman soldiers carried rectangular shields. But more recent discoveries show that in the 6th century AD, the 6th Legion was recalled back to Rome and later units used round shields, not the rectangular sort. And even more recently, archaeologists have found a Roman road directly below Treasurer's House, 18 inches below the floor, around the length of a lower leg. Harry died in 2014 and is possibly the most famous ghost witness in Yorkshire, but other ghosts have been seen in Treasurer's House. The building itself was first established in 1091 when the first Treasurer of York Minster was appointed. The last Treasurer left in 1547 when the Reformation of Henry VIII brought the job of York Minster Treasurer to an end. Archbishop Robert Holgate bought the house, and it was later owned by Archbishop Thomas Young, who passed it down to his descendants, who almost entirely rebuilt it. Only a wall remains of the original structure today. During this period, the house hosted such luminaries as King James I, 6th of Scotland, and in the late 19th century, the remains were restored by architect Temple Moore under the guidance of new owner, industrialist Frank Green. Whilst he was restoring the house, he discovered 4 Roman columns in the cellar, 3 of which he removed and placed in the main house. When Green retired in 1930, he gave the house and all its contents to the National Trust. Many people reported seeing Green wandering the halls long after his death. Though his death came a year after, Harry Martindale was witness to the exhausted Roman legion, and he was far away from the house at the time, living in his estate in Somerset. Green never married, but was reputed to have been a lover of actress Ellen Terry, and loved to be surrounded by actors, musicians, and other theatrical types I can appreciate. He used to throw grand parties where young men would be dressed as 17th century page boys with wigs and frock coats. Frank himself loved to dress up and was often seen wearing elaborate capes and frilled shirts. This penchant for fancy dress could well lead to future ghost sightings of a mysteriously anachronistic nature. He also hosted the future Edward VII when he was still Prince of Wales. Frank's temper was legendary, and he once ordered servants to dispose of all the food in the house when he saw a fly landing on one of the plates. Coal had to be wrapped individually, he would visit the kitchen at night to inspect the cutlery, and would constantly check to see if any chair leg or table was out of place. The servants were terrified of him, obviously. That he would still be seen at the house he ruled over so ruthlessly may also not be such a surprise. He threatened to haunt the place if any of his precious furniture was moved, and reportedly, he kept his promise. Treasurer's house is filled with art, including folk art collected by Frank Green, as well as more traditional pieces, some of it bought by George Aislabie of Studley Royal, the owner in the 17th century and registrar of York Minster. George was either 45 or 56 when he died in 1675. He was born in either 1618 or 1630, accounts differ. George, of yeoman stock, had married Mary Mallory, an heiress from one of the most respected families in Britain. Sir Jonathan Jennings took exception to the marriage and called George the scum of the country. Understandably insulted, George challenged Jennings to a duel, which he lost. Jennings was convicted of manslaughter but later pardoned and went on to become a Tory MP. Seems fitting. George left behind several children, including newborn Elizabeth, 6-year-old namesake George, and 7-year-old Anne, who both died a year after George Sr. This tragic family have also been seen wandering the halls of Treasurer's house. Other ghosts include a cat and a dog, and the classic lady in grey who gets about a bit. George Aislabie's heir, John, became an MP, was involved in a number of scandals, and was instrumental in the notorious South Sea Bubble, an early pyramid scheme that saw thousands losing all they owned. John Aislabie spent some time in the Tower of London, so his ghost may also get about a bit too. The basement, scene of Harry Martindale's ghostly vision, is now a cafe, so there is always the possibility you will get a 2-for-1 deal if you visit, with Frank Green's complaining about the decor and the Roman legion tramping through your table while you're trying to drink your latte. We hope you enjoyed that episode of Spooky History. You can follow us on most social media at Spooky Hist Show and support us with donations at paypal.me/noisyghostend. If you have suggestions for future episodes, just leave them in the comments. Thanks for watching, and please, do have nightmares. Goodbye.